Happiness comes from low expectations. You could choose to be happy right now. Why are you choosing not to? Why do you think you have to wait till you get this money, or I have to do this to get this? It's okay if that is actually what you want, but for 80%, 90% of the population, it's actually not what you want. When you are reaching your potentiality, you change the world for others too. As the humans that we are, if we are not here for each other, then what actually matters? In my childhood, I had sexual abuse. People think that that has to stop you and the life that you live and allow it to continue to be part of your identity. People are like, how do you feel, or how do you talk about that? It's because we're meaning-making machines. And so, welcome to Life by 8, your blueprint for designing your ultimate life. I'm Rebecca Grugan, your architect on this journey to building a life fully lived. Using our 8 pillars to human wellness framework, we'll explore how to transform your everyday from ordinary to extraordinary. So let's go. Today, I'm going to speak into my story. Even though Life by 8 is about you and how you live your life, sometimes people want to know why it's worth listening to me. So I'm currently 38, growing up in Brisbane, Australia, and I had a childhood that was beautiful in so many ways and so many things that, I didn't really remember until I was older that really made sense to me as I was in my 20s as to why I was the way that I was. So I am one of 4 girls. My mum was a single mum. My older sister doesn't know her dad, and I was an affair child. And we've got 2 younger sisters, and so there's 4 girls with mum, and we're in and out of Nan's house growing up. I guess what I want to share about this is that your childhood, you can have 4 siblings, you can have whoever around you, and the same things you can go through, but you'll all have different perspectives on it. And so for me, in my childhood, I had sexual abuse that happened, and he eventually went to jail. But I really want to speak into this because people think that that has to stop you and the life that you live and allow it to continue to be part of your identity. For me, this was a pivotal part, and it's not something that I would ever want to take back because it makes me who I am today. And so going through and growing up with that, and then in and out of housing with mum, and we moved around the country. We lived in Alice Springs for a period of time as well. And it is in Alice Springs where it all actually came out. So the abuse happened between sort of the ages of 4 to 8. And when we were in Alice Springs, it sort of came out accidentally. And that's when it all changed. I remember being somebody who, was in the room with the curtains closed and watching TV while it felt like my mum was grieving of blaming herself or whatever it was she was going through. But I remember being there and sleeping on the floor on yoga mats with my 3 sisters and us just getting through it, not really understanding what was going on. And I remember that this is a pivotal point of when my imagination really served me well. And I was able to, create games and scenarios and tell stories that helped my younger sisters get through things, but most of all myself. At that point, we were in Northern Territory and we had to move back to Brisbane because that's where all the court stuff had to happen. At this point, I do not have any memory of the abuse happening. I didn't even know it happened to me. And so we sort of went through this breakup as a family where all these different people were in and out, and my nan was gambling. And I remember this being a big part of my money story. With my nan gambling, my mum relatively absent and in and out of working to avoid whatever it meant for us to actually talk about the feelings we were all having. I just remember I became really sexually active as a teenager because I thought that that's how you got love. I thought that's how men wanted to see you. And I remember 15 is when I lost my virginity, but I lost my virginity to rape. So I didn't actually know what was happening. And I can remember that moment, and I can remember being on the bed, and on the other side of the door were his mates laughing. And it's really strange when I look back at it because it's like I wasn't actually scared. I wasn't actually worried because the thing is that I actually just thought that was normal. And so from that moment on, I was just, there was lots of guys involved. And at 17, I started my first business. I just moved out at 16. So I remember after that, the rape that I told mum, like, if we're still here, I'm going to move out at 16. We were living with Nan at the time. Now, on reflection, just to bring you back, I wasn't blaming the men in my life. I was, for some reason, blaming my mum and my grandmother. And so this is where the feminine, masculine stuff comes into the work that I do now, but I'm just planting that seed for you here so you can make sense of it. And so moving out of home at 16, I moved to Adelaide. I was playing soccer or football, depends what country you're in. I'd been playing for a number of years, and I was playing for the Queensland team, but I was in the middle of the team. So I got mostly game time, but not enough that I thought. So moving to South Australia meant that I could try out for the South Australia team, which would mean I would probably get more game time at nationals to try to make the Australian team. It also meant that it was more affordable to live in Adelaide than it was Brisbane. It also meant that I couldn't just move home when things got hard, because I had to, have money and fly and all of those sort of things. So I moved to Adelaide, started grade 12 down there, and then moved into this share accommodation. Sport served me extremely well. And what I mean by that is it made me see life beyond myself. And it was at that point that I remember going, this world is more about others than it is me. And I got to realize in those team moments, in those locker rooms, when people were going through things, that I could help them. And at the time, at 16, 17, 18, I didn't really make sense of that career-wise. The first business I started when I was 17 was Fashion Weekly. So I was a tomboy, and playing soccer for so many years, I had no idea what the fuck a beret was. And so I was like Googling, what is a beret? And then I was like, seriously, fashion needs to make more sense. If it's this complex, people are not going to be able to understand this or implement it into their lives. And I love color, and I love pattern, and I love texture, and I love how it makes you feel. And on the journey, and I'll get to this point, but I just want to make you guys aware that it was at this point that fashion became a part of my life. And so some of the milestones between moving out at 16 and I got married, I believe I was 25, there are some really key points in this. And the reason I'm sharing them is because they help make sense of the life that I live now. And so some of those include, when I was 18, my younger sisters at the time, they're 4 and 5 years younger than me, they wanted to see their dad. And so this is the abuser who'd gone to jail and was out of jail, and they really wanted to see their dad. And so it wasn't anything anybody else in my family wanted to do or probably could do and remain psychologically safe. But 18, I took my sisters to see their dad up North Queensland, and I wasn't worried about it. To me, what was important was that if they needed to have that sense of identity or to make sense of who they were, and that meant spending time with him, they were underage at the time, so it needed to be somebody. And for what purpose could it not be me? And so I remember that being a pivotal point, because so many people are like, how can you do that? How could you be in the same room as the person who did that to you? Blah, 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 blah. And it still continues to this day. People are like, how do you feel, or how do you talk about that way? It's because we're meaning-making machines. And so anything only means whatever I decide to make it mean. That being a pivotal point in, I guess, making sense of communication and my ability to deal or handle conflict and relationships. And then I sort of, had a boyfriend for a number of years. I think we were 4 or 5 years. And then I met Paul, and Paul and I we were engaged after 6 months together. And then we were married a year later. And what may surprise some people, and each time I speak about this, it seems to, is that my ex-boyfriend, Dan, walked me down the aisle to Paul. Because the thing is that we live our lives in ways where we make things mean stuff, we hold resentment, and we don't listen to the feather, brick, and chalk. And so the thing is that I've been pretty good to make sense of the feather or the brick. And so I never have to get to the truck where I have to live in with resentment or hate somebody or, let that energy be spent that way. And it wasn't until recent years when I reflect back on my life that I can make sense of that. And so having my ex-boyfriend walk me down the aisle was a real representation of the person that I am. And I had, it was a DIY wedding. At that time, I wasn't really, I was starting a business called RCG Creative. I'd started Fashion Weekly at 17. I'd sold that just sort of the year after I got married. And I was sort of working RCG Creative. We were not really making much money at the time. Paul was a PT working morning and nights. And so we moved in together. We had a unit, got married, and then the first month we tried to get pregnant, we got pregnant. And so for some people that may seem rushed. And this is the thing, right, is that who says? Like, who says that 6 months in engagement is too short? Who says 1 month is? Who says 4 years? You do. And so, yes, we met and married within 18 months, but we're 14 years on and we're still together. And so you can wait to whatever you think is the right time because of what other people say, but what's right for you? And so that's where I started to realize that life design was something that I actually live on a day-to-day basis. So I had Liam. So Liam's now, whenever you're listening to this, he's 12. And I have Owen, who is now 7. And so Liam was born. I did not connect with my child like people do in the movies. Like, I was somebody who just was given a child after an emergency C-section. And I had no plans at birth. Like, I didn't really care if it was a Caesar or natural or whatever, but I had this giant baby. My babies were ginormous, 10 pound 2, 10 pound 4. And so I've got this baby and I'm like, what the fuck do I do with this? And so another reason that I'm wanting to share this is because the expectation of thinking you're going to love your children or love the moments that we create because of the movies we watch growing up doesn't have to be that way. You get to design your life. And so had this child, trying to breastfeed him, and it's not happening. He wants way more than I can get him to attach. And so he's on the floor one day and he's asleep. And I'm going, I don't want him to wake up. Because when he wakes up, he's going to go red and he's going to cry because I can't seem to feed him. And I'm just trying to breastfeed him. And then the cool thing is that I had a male midwife who was visiting the house the weeks after leaving the hospital. And it was this one day where I'm feeling that and seeing that. And he goes, just give him the bottle. Just give him formula. No one really cares. He's going to be okay. And it was almost like I was waiting for that permission piece. And the reason I wanted to I guess, make sure you guys knew that it was a male midwife is because if you think about my story, me trusting a male to tell me what to do, it's not something that would be ingrained in me. But I did. And the moment that I did that, I actually got to start bonding with Liam. And so 11 months on from that, so he's born, we're getting just before his first birthday, I started going, all right, I went straight back to work with RCG Creative. We worked from home and we had a few small business clients. And then I was like, given a book by a neighbor, and it was called, God, I can't even remember what it's called now. And it was a Montessori book. So I learnt about Montessori at this point. And I was like, we were over in Fiji and I was like, oh, this makes sense. This is how education should be. I want this for my child, but all children should have access to this. And I read the book in like a day and came home from Fiji and just started working out what I was going to do. So this is July, 2013. And then I started I Am Montessori. So at that point, I made the joke that I was banned from the local bowls club because every time I went there, I made the old men cry because I just had this ability to actually really connect with them and to get them to tell their story. And there was this one man and nobody knew that he had a daughter. Now he's in his 60s. He's been going to this place for 20 years and nobody knew he had a daughter because nobody ever asked. Nobody ever cared. Or they might have cared, but the thing is not in that depth, not in the way we need connection as a human being. And so I Am Montessori started. One of the guys at the Bowls Club just sold his business. He came on board as my first business partner. And so I Am Montessori has now been going for 11 years. And we've helped convert multiple childcare centres or early childhood centres. We have currently 2 of our own. We started a primary school, which opened high school this year. And then what happened was 2.5 years ago, I started Life by 8. I'd met my business partner at the time at a gym, and this is a way that I lived my life, and I didn't really have it formalized in any framework or structure. It's just I did a vision board always between Christmas and New Year's. It was my favorite, most productive time of the year. And I always looked at my life in all these different segments because as a child, with all of that what was going on and all the chaos, it allowed me to, I guess, bring some type of control or order and be able to see my life in all its different facets without getting overwhelmed by the whole thing. And so when we looked at starting a business, Life by 8 was the name that came to me. It was the name that made sense. It was how I lived my life. And so I live my life by 8. Those 8 pillars to human wellness. Hey, stop for a second. I know you're in the middle of building your life. If you want help with that, I can help you. Whether you join our Architect program where it's working with me one-on-one, or our Build group container, which absolutely has incredible value and will help you design and build that life faster. You can also join us to understand and design your energetic blueprint before there's a 1-day, 2-day event. You can join us there too. There is multiple different ways you can work with us at different investment points. We would love to have you there to help you get, design, and build the life that you want faster. You can see the links below. Feel free to reach out in any DM, in any social media platform. I would love to hear from you. Now, get back to building that life. My why is to bring ideas to life so that others can reach their potential from first breath to last. And so for me, the early childhood centers with I Am Montessori and what we had done there for children at that time, 0 to 12 years of age, that was my reactive work. That was coming up with solutions for children who, when Liam was born, were 0 to 3. And so I continue to make sure I've got solutions for them as they grow. And then, so that's my proactive work, I should say. My reactive work is the work that I do with anybody 12 and over, because that's trying to solve the problems that they've now experienced because of the life and systems they had access to. And so Life by 8 is really from, we work with teenagers and children. However, from that teenage years to retirement, that's what Life by 8 is about. It's about designing your life when you have that freedom, flexibility, independence to be really aware so that you can acknowledge and accept and take action, which are the A4 parts of Life by 8's framework. And so those 8 pillars really, really help me make sense of this life that we have. And so when we are, we're on point and we're loving and we're doing and we're creating, we can really look at all of those pillars at the same time. But when life gets overwhelming, which at some point it does, you can come back to one pillar at a time. And under all of that is your foundation. And that foundation is your nervous system and your ability to communicate how you feel. When you have those 2 things, no matter what life throws at you and what happens for you, the Life by 8 framework allows you to really build a strong house on top of that foundation. And so in the last couple of years, I've gotten really, really passionate about my ability to educate others, but myself, on how to really have a strong nervous system to increase my capacity to hold more energy. Not just money. I mean love. I mean time. I mean connection. Quality. And so Life by 8's mission and journey has been to do that. And it's happened so rapidly and it's beautiful and I love every single moment of it. And the more that I go into this and the more people I work with, whether it's my one-on-one clients or in my group containers, what we do here at Life by 8 is actually changing lives. And I've been doing that for the last 11 years in early childhood and education for children. And the amazing opportunities that I have to do that with adults and teenagers now, I am completely grateful for. And I know that everything that's happened in my life up until now is deliberately and purposely put there so that I can actually serve you to the best of my ability. And the thing is that what I can promise you with Life by 8 and with the journey, if you're on this with me, is that you'll always get me as me. And I won't pretend to know things that I don't know. And sometimes I'll be really funny and sometimes you'll be like, what the fuck, Rebecca? That's all of me though, because if you're going to bring all of you to your life and you're going to bring all of you to a Life by 8 event or a coaching container, whatever it is, if you bring all of you, I can guarantee you will always have all of me. And that's the thing. I will meet you where you're at. Because sometimes, for a lot of you, you don't actually know what it feels like to be seen, let alone to be heard. And as that little girl who was in that dark room watching TV just to numb out the noise of what was going on around me, I know what it's like to not be seen, to not be heard, and to have no fucking idea how to feel. But that's what we do here. That's what I do. And that is my purpose. Because if I can help you bring your ideas to life, if I can help you see the incredible potential that's in you, when you are reaching your potentiality, you change the world for others too. And for what purpose are we here? As the humans that we are, if we are not here for each other, then what actually matters? And so that why of bringing ideas to life so that others can reach their potential, that matters because when you can reach your potential, you can help the children and the adults and everybody else in your life around you reach theirs. And the reason I say from first breath to last is because fundamentally breathwork is one of the biggest modalities that is available for every human being on the planet and doesn't require you to have a fuckload of money to do it. And so as the same way I approached Montessori and education and wanting it to be accessible for children and being able to get the school set up in a public system so it costs, $1,400 instead of $15,000 a year and making that accessible for more families and children, that is my why. The more people that can live a life in their nervous system is regulated and they can hold whatever the fuck they want, things like breathwork almost should be a human right. We just forgot how to breathe. We forgot how to see ourselves. We forgot how to see ourselves amongst others. We became so insular and so individualized that we forgot about the collective. And the thing is with Life by 8, you're in a community where people see you, for you, where you're not judged if you wear fucking sequins and bright colors, or you wear bright red lipstick and no fucking shoes, or you wear a singlet. You come as you are. And when you come as you are, you bring all of your power with it. And the thing is that sometimes you may feel like you can't be that. And so I want you to know that you can be that. And that it's all of you that the world actually needs. And just sometimes, if I look back in my life and I look at the way in which I translate, whether it's fashion to make it make sense, whether it's Montessori to make sense to educators, this translation between what seems to be up here of the woo-woo shit and the science and the quantumness and the whatever the fuck is manifestation, all this stuff. Why do people put crystals out? Fucking the full moon. I don't know. But you don't have to. What I want to make sense and translate is so that you can actually make sense of it and then start making sense of who you are. Because we are in a world of values level 4, especially in the reality that we're in, where guilt is the number one emotion that runs the world, where things have to be right or wrong, whether you're a good or a bad person. But there is so much grey and there is so much amazingness between all of that space. But when you can make sense of you, and that's why the I Am Energetics blueprint exists, is because if you can know if you're an internal or external energetics person, what puts you into an energy-rich state, when you know that, every decision you make in your life changes. Because you realize that you're living potentially right now in a way that doesn't serve you, in a way that drains you. But the world that we live in has many of us believing that we have to blame the people around us. I can't do that right now because I have kids. You chose to have kids. I'm overweight because I can't afford healthy food. Yeah, you can. It's just more convenient. What point are you going to take responsibility? Because when it comes to understanding your energetics, if you can make sense that it's your past that drains you, if you're an external, or it's the future and the anxiety and the not knowing that drains you, and you're an internal and your past actually drives you and puts you into an energy state, what you get to realize is that you can take responsibility. When you take responsibility, you can make choices that serve you. And you can stop blaming everybody else, because your life is not going to change until the moment you stop blaming everybody else. So the reason it's easy for me to be in a room with my stepfather, who may have abused me, well, not may, he did, because all of those memories came out after the rape. But the reason I can do that, the reason I can have an ex-boyfriend walk me down the aisle, the reason that I can have partnership splits and still have respect and love for the people involved who were in my life and who may not be anymore, is because I take responsibility for me. I have a team. I have an incredible team of educators in I Am Montessori. I have an incredible team in Life by 8. But the thing is that they don't work for me. I work for them. And if I live and work in service, everything that goes right is because of them, and everything that goes wrong is because of me. The A4 part of Life by 8, when you become aware of something and you acknowledge it and you accept it, you get to take action and change it. And so Life by 8 is here. I am here for you. I am here for whatever it is that you need to start seeing the incredible human that you are and what impact you can have on this world. And I don't want to talk about 6 and 7 figure businesses and talk about all the fucking money that I have. What I want to talk about is, what does wealth mean for you? What is an energy-rich life for you? Life is not just about money. Life is about energy. There are a reason why some of the most happiest people in the world have fuck all money, because it's what meaning you attach to it. I'm not sure if you are sick of seeing people talk about money and having all of this, like, earn this a day and this is how much it all, and it's all about, $1 million, $1 billion, fucking hundreds of thousands, six-figure months. I am all for you living an energy-rich life. The thing is, though, is that energy-rich doesn't mean just money. For me, I feel rich, I feel wealthy when I have 8 different cereals in my cupboard, because I grew up on fucking cornflakes and powdered milk. I went and did the experience of going into luxury stores and spending money and seeing. When I was 15, I wrote down that I wanted to buy a Burberry trench coat. I have no fucking idea. I've only ever lived in Australia. But 15-year-old me wanted that. So, only recently, I just walked into Burberry, bought it. The experience felt great, but it didn't feel great because of the, I'm walking around in a Burberry trench coat. What felt great was that 15-year-old me, little me, I got something I dreamed of. I live in Brisbane, so there's not that many times that I'm going to wear it, but I am traveling quite often at the moment. But the thing is that I don't feel wealthy when I look at it in my cupboard. I feel accomplished, and I feel like I've helped me integrate my inner child, the things that I desired as a person, and that I'm worthy of it. But having expensive clothes in your cupboard may not be what you think it's going to be. You having freedom doesn't mean you have to have millions of dollars in your account. What actually brings joy, what actually brings happiness, only you know that. But when we follow people who only talk about money and how important it is and that you need all of this and that if you pay for this XYZ with them, you're going to have all this money in the world, and then you get disappointed at the end of it. The thing is that happiness comes from low expectations. Dave Ramsey talks about this all the time in all of his work that he's been doing for decades. Find the happiness, because you could choose to be happy right now. But why? Why are you choosing not to? Why do you think you have to wait till you get this X, Y, Z in your account, or have this money, or I have to do this to get this? It's okay if that is actually what you want. But for 80%, 90% of the population, it's actually not what you want. You just see it and think that that's going to be the thing that solves all your fucking problems. There are super rich people, money-wise, in the world who are really fucking unhappy. And there are really poor people, money-wise, who are really extraordinarily happy. But an unreasonable and an extraordinary life comes from you seeing energy for all of its forms, not just money. And my goal here with what I do and with Life by 8 is to help you realize that, is to understand that energy is everything. Money is just one part of that energy. And so I'm sick and tired of hearing all about 6 and 7 figure months, years. What I want to hear is what makes you happy. What's real, what's authentic, what's transparent for you. And you being you. And I'll be me. And so when you can make sense of all of this, and it starts with you, when you make sense of you, you can make sense of everything. And so my goal is to translate the difference between all of this random stuff up here that so many people don't understand and make it make sense for you where you are right now. Because it's about me putting my hand out and you choosing to ask for help. You choosing you. Because it's not going to work if I'm the one choosing everybody else. If I'm here for you, but you never choose you. I can't force you to change your life. Nor would I ever want to. Because you have to want. You have to want it. You have to want something more than the quality of the life that you have right now. Because you're a human, and that's what we're built for. And so the plans for the future, if we talk about first breath to last, I have a goal of an aged care facility that specialises in dementia and Alzheimer's. Because Montessori is doing incredible work as a philosophy in those places. But my future is about helping you see yours. And so that is my story. My story is in the everyday. My story is how you choose to show up for you and those in your life and to really have some actual fun. And not like the crazy, dancey fucking fun that you might see. The energy I have in me might seem flat sometimes, but it's quite neutral. Like I don't get affected, super excited or super depressed. I actually feel really regulated and I feel really in love with who I am. And you'll see that. You'll see that on this journey. If you haven't already, if you're new to here, you'll start to see this even more as I step into me, step into who I am and back myself 100% so that you can see what that's like. So you can see and have that model to you. And so you get to choose you. And right now, I choose me. And so you'll start to see me in a lot more places. So Life by 8, you can start living your life by 8. Thank you for joining me living Life by 8. If this episode hit home, brought value to you in any way, I would love your support with a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget to subscribe on your favourite platform too. And don't let your journey end here. Connect with me and my community at Rebecca Grugan on all social platforms. I look forward to going deeper with you on your journey.